Hi, my name is Anne-Marie Bayer, and today I'm going to discuss coffee. There are people all over who drink coffee every morning, but why? Coffee originates from way back when. It first showed up in literature around 900 AD in Arab countries. It showed up with the Philistines. There was a man who had a lot of animals that would eat flowers with these red berries on them. And he noticed the animals would become very excitable and energetic, and he thought it was strange behavior. And that's how coffee was discovered. It was caffeine that was making them behave that way. So coffee started to become produced for consumption. Around 600 AD, it started to become popular in the Arab countries. Coffee is a genus, and there are flower species in it, and it's called coffea. There are about 20 different species of the flowers. There are only 3 species of coffee that the world really drinks. It's always C period, and C stands for coffea, so there's C robusta, C arabica, and C liberia. People don't usually prefer C liberia. They usually prefer C robusta and C arabica. So it started in the Arab countries and started to spread from there. Around the 15th century, it spread into Turkey. They really liked it, and it spread all over Turkey. Getting into the 16th century, the Italians started to really like it. And France started to really like it too, so it spread through Italy and France. So how did coffee get to America? Well, there was a lieutenant. His name was Gabriel Matthew Declue. He first heard of this business and went to South America to check it out. It had a warm climate, and it would be perfect for coffee production. So he went back home and was discussing trying to bring some coffee there. So he decided to steal some and take it on a boat to South America. He was barely keeping it alive on the boat. And then when he finally got to South America, he planted it, and it started to grow. Brazil really wanted it, but it was hard to get. So he would have to get it from somewhere else. So he went back to France to discuss with the president, and they were fighting, and he really wanted some of the coffee, but he wouldn't let him take it. They were 2 different strains of coffee, and he didn't want the strains to cross. So he decided to meet the Frenchman's wife. He started to flatter her, and she ended up having an affair. The wife took some of the plants and put them in a coffee pot for him. She gave him the coffee pot, and he took it back to South America. He planted it in Brazil in about 1727, and it started to spread. So it's spread in South America and Africa, and in China. It's very important for coffee to grow in a warm climate. It doesn't really grow well in northern climates. It has to be a tropical climate. So South America and Africa are perfect for it. That's why the South grows it a lot. In Jamaica, there is a place called Blue Mountain, and it has the best coffee. It is delicious. It's a very small production. Like, the Japanese will buy it, but it's very expensive. It's about $40 a pound. Other places you can get it like 4 pounds for $16 or $17, and that's what's usually bought around the world. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the process of how coffee is made. So Robusta is the most popular in Europe, but America tends to prefer Arabica. Robusta is the most popular because it's very easy to grow, has a strong defense against insects. Robusta is not very easy coffee to grow. Arabica is not very easy coffee to grow. It has to be hand-picked, where Robusta coffee will turn ripe and stay on the vine. It's very easy to hand-pick that way and process in the machine, but Arabica coffee is not like that. As soon as it turns ripe, it falls off the vine and gets spoiled. So they always need to hand-pick it, and that's why it's more expensive. But it tastes better, so that's why Americans prefer it. Liberia coffee is like Robusta because it has a good defense against insects. They're both very easy to take care of. But Robusta and Arabica are still more popular. I always forget those words. Liberia is just not used as much. Okay, so there are two methods of producing coffee. We can talk about the wet and the dry method. The dry method, it tends to be used in countries with a drier climate that don't have a lot of water. They let the sun shine on it and dry it out. They have to wait a few hours and turn the beans so they get dried. They have to be dried evenly. And when they're done, they have a shell that has to be taken off. It's a lot of work to get that coating off, but they do have machines that can do it. And then the wet method is used for countries that have a wetter climate. The beans are all put in water, and they're put in a giant vat to soak. Then there was a machine that'll take all the coatings off. Then it leaves the seed. Then there's a silvery coating that's left on it, but the silver coating must come off. So they put the beans in a giant rotating cylinder, and it's very hot, and the beans hop around in the cylinder, and the coating starts to flake off. Air is blown through the cylinder to blow the coating out of the cylinder. And then the little seed is left. And now I'm going to talk about roasting, which is the last step in the process before brewing. There are many different ways to roast coffee. There's the short or the long method to do it. If you're doing the short method, you can do the drip method if that's what you prefer. It makes it strong, but if you want it really dark, like espresso, if you prefer it rich, there are those two ways to do it. But you can change it up depending on how you like it to taste. And there are two different kinds of beans for Robusta and Arabica. But the green ones, there's the green and the red. And they do have a difference in the taste. The ones that are green are more strong, and the ones that are red have less of a taste and taste better but are less strong. There's espresso and French roast, and there's Kenya AA. And it's typically ground up. And depending on how long it's roasted depends on your taste preference. And now I'm going to talk about brewing coffee, and there are many different ways to do this as well. I'll start back in the Arab countries, in Turkey. They use this little metal cup with a long stick on it, and they would put it over a fire with a little bit of water. They would grind up the coffee very fine and put it in the water and stir it over the fire. They would wait for it to boil up, and when it would start to boil up to the top, they would take it off the fire and put it back on. And they would keep taking it off and putting it back on when it boils up. And then when it's ready, they pull it off the fire, and they have little cups, and they're called demi-tasse. They use it in Italy. They use that in Italy, and they pour it into these little cups. They want to keep the foam even, and that's why they pour it in those little cups, because the taste is very important, and it's important to have it even. In Greece, Turkey, all those Arabic countries, basically all over Europe, they have what's called a percolator. It started in about the 1950s. It's a big metal machine, and the coffee will go up through a tube and drip back down into it. It usually takes about 3 to 4 minutes, and it drips, and it uses electricity. And then when in European countries they have a machine and the coffee gets highly concentrated because espresso is very popular there. Machines are very expensive. They can be $4,000 to $10,000, so you can't really have those at home. But you can get what's called a machinetta, which is a little coffee machine, and you put water into it, and it has a filter, and you pour the coffee into the filter, and then it must be ground. And then water drips up. Now I'm going to talk about different strains of coffee. There are different kinds of coffee. There's cafe au lait, and it uses 2/3 of hot cream. And you can put some chocolate in it, in the cafe au lait. And then there's Viennese. They use that in Italy, and they have a metal cup, and they put very strong black coffee, and they fill it partially and put some cream on top, and that's it. It's not too popular. Maybe in the cold months. Some people like it. Some people do like straight black coffee. And then cafe espresso, is very popular. You put some water in it, it's used to give you some caffeine and help wake up. And then the last one, which is most popular today, is a cappuccino. It's like an espresso. There's a little bit of coffee, but it's not 2/3. It's more, it has about 1/3 of the power as that. You need to use a special machine. You put very hot water in it. And it has a little tube. And it blows some of the stuff into it, and it gets very foamy. Then the foam gets scooped into the cup, and different things are put on it, like vanilla, cinnamon, or nutmeg, and that's it. And that you can use at home. I was asking my friends if I could use their espresso machine. They would have a hot water steamer, but they would say, oh, it doesn't work too well, it's just okay, and I started to give up. And they started to give up. And I saw that my cousin had one. His name is Willard. He had one he used at home. It's called a Graziella. It's from Italy, and it's a machinetta. and it has a bunch of little pieces on it, and you would put the water and wait for it to boil. And when it starts to boil and steam, you'd put it into a metal pot. And it's not too expensive. It didn't work too well, and his advice was it cost about $40 or $50, and I need to drink my cappuccino every morning. I can't live without my coffee.